There's some big questions that kept nagging me as I was testing the new iPhone 16 Pro and iPhone 16 Pro Max. Do the larger screens make for designs that are just right or too big? Is the new camera control a game changer or a gimmick? How well do the new Apple Intelligence features actually work? And if Apple is calling the iPhone 16 Pro Max the longest lasting iPhone ever, how long does it last on a charge? Let's get into all of that and more in my full iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max review. First, a quick cheat sheet. The 6.3-inch iPhone 16 Pro starts at $999 once more for 128 gigs of storage, but there's a big upgrade in the form of the 5x Tetraprism zoom that was a Pro Max exclusive last year. So now, the only differences are the screen size, starting storage, and battery life. The ginormous 6.9-inch iPhone 16 Pro Max starts at 256 gigs of storage, and both phones go up to 1 terabyte. I've been a Pro Max user for years since the iPhone 11, but after testing the new iPhones, I'm actually torn between the iPhone 16 Pro and iPhone 16 Pro Max. That's because the iPhone 16 Pro sports a 6.3-inch display, up from 6.1 inches. So overnight, the smaller Pro has grown from a small to mid-size phone. Don't get me wrong, this is a bigger device, but it's still fairly easy to use with one hand. The more dramatic change is the $1,199 iPhone 16 Pro Max, which has the largest display ever of any iPhone at 6.9 inches. Yes, the thinner bezels help keep the device somewhat compact, but it's still taller, wider, and heavier than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I thought was the near perfect size and weight for a big screen phone. I've gone from feeling like I cheated the system to being slightly cheated. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it's just too big, at least for my hands, as it's more of a stretch to do things like scrolling through web pages or TikTok. And once you put a case on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it's like a mini tank. The good news is that both the new iPhone 16 Pros are built to be more durable. In addition to having a titanium band, Apple claims that the ceramic shield display is now 50% tougher. We can't drop these units, but on paper, it's encouraging. The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max both come in 4 colors: titanium white, titanium black, natural titanium, and desert titanium. Our iPhone 16 Pro came in natural, which looks fairly modern, but I prefer the desert color as it pops more. The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max displays don't get any upgrades in terms of brightness or refresh rate, but they're still among the best OLED panels on a phone. The only main difference is that the screens can now scale down to a minimum of 1 nit, which means you can use your phone in bed without disturbing anyone else and get an even dimmer alarm clock. Otherwise, these panels are largely the same, which has allowed the Pixel 9 Pro and Pro XL to surge ahead in terms of brightness. We measured a max of about 1500 nits for both the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, while the Pixel 9 Pro can reach over 1800 nits, and the XL hits over 2300 nits. Outside in direct sunlight, the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max were both dimmer than the Pixel 9 Pro XL, though Google's phone dimmed faster over time in response to the heat. One of the key features of the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro is camera control, and it's a dedicated button that is recessed on the right side when you're holding it in landscape mode, but you can actually use it in either direction. So you can use it with your thumb like this, or if you want to use your iPhone as a traditional camera, you can use it like this. And when you're using it, you just press the button to launch into the camera. And then from there, press the button again to shoot. So by default, if you slide your finger over this camera control, you can zoom in from far away, but you can also switch between multiple modes, and that includes, with the light press, you can see like exposure, your focus, the depth, switching between the cameras themselves, and you can also choose between multiple styles and the overall tone of your image. So there's lots at your fingertip, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max get a bunch of camera upgrades, starting with a 48 megapixel Fusion camera that's designed to read data faster. The result should be zero shutter lag and faster focus. I took some shots of people passing by on scooters and moving taxis at the same time on the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and the new phone was indeed faster. Both the new iPhone 16 Pros sport a new 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera, up from 12 megapixels. I got a very crisp shot of a reservoir with this phone, complete with colorful echinacea flowers in front and a bright blue sky. The Galaxy S24 Ultra's pic is more vibrant, but has less realistic colors. Speaking of colors, you can easily change the look of your photos before and after, now with photographic styles. This is exclusive to the iPhone 16 series. In the camera app, you can choose from 5 different skin undertone styles that impact only the skin tone in the image, and 9 mood-based styles ranging from vibrant and cozy to stark black and white. You can even adjust the style in real time with this nifty control pad. That 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera also upgrades your macro photos to a higher resolution, and I got a pretty stunning shot of a pink zinnia flower. You can easily make out the veins in the petals. And I prefer this shot over the oversaturated S24 Ultra and the blurrier Pixel 9 Pro XL pic. The good news is that both the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max now have the same tetraprism zoom lens, which gives you a 5x optical zoom. It performed well when I zoomed in on these boats, though the Galaxy S24 Ultra shot is a bit sharper. At the Max 25x digital zoom, both iPhones fall behind the competition when I zeroed in on this sign. The lettering is fuzzier, and the Galaxy can go up to 100x and the Pixel 30x. In low light, the iPhone 16 Pro does a great job illuminating this park in complete darkness, and I prefer this shot over the Samsung and Pixel because it actually looks like a night sky, and the lettering on the sign is clearer. It's not just the still cameras that are getting an upgrade this time around, there's also a cool new capability when it comes to recording 4K video. The iPhone 16 Pro's video gets an upgrade with 4K video capture up to 120 frames per second, and there's some pretty neat things you can do with that footage. Using the playback speed controls, I could slow down a ping pong match to 50, 25, or 20%, and it still looked sharp. To test the video quality of the iPhone 16 Pro and the Pro Max versus other flagships, I shot this clip of the beach at 4K and 30 frames per second. The iPhone does a smoother job transitioning to 5x zoom, and the rippling water looks great. There's also a natural looking gradation in the sky, though I prefer the brighter trees in the Samsung clip. The coolest new iPhone 16 Pro video feature is Audio Mix. It uses a combination of the spatial audio capture and AI to help minimize background noise. So the idea is that you can hear the people who are in the frame, and you can choose from 4 different modes. So there's standard, there's in-frame, there's studio, and then cinematic. In-frame means that you're going to be concentrating on the people just in front of you. Cinematic is going to be just a little bit of background noise, but you're still going to hear the people just fine. And then studio is as if you were recording in a studio. And I've come out to Bryant Park to see just how well it works. So Mike, we have lots of background noise. We have kids behind us. We have a stage over there to the right. How well do you think this feature is going to work?
I'm really curious because, if you're in a place with a lot of ambient noise, like New York City, it's definitely going to be a challenge to isolate that sort of thing. I'm curious about the other features. Well, there's a big crash right behind us there.
So the hope on Apple's part is that with the 4 studio microphones in combination with this feature in Audio Mix, that we're going to hear just us or just what we want to hear. But let's see how well it does.
Yeah.
Okay. To be clear, the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus also have Audio Mix, but only the Pros benefit from 4 studio mics. Apple Intelligence is Apple's version of AI that's designed to be more secure and helpful than what Samsung and Google offer. But right now, it's more of a tease, since it doesn't launch until October. And even then, certain features won't come until later, such as visual intelligence and ChatGPT integration. It starts with a new Siri. The assistant has been revamped, starting with a redesign that makes the whole outside of the display glow when summoned. And you can type to Siri now when you're in a situation where you don't want to use your voice. Siri is definitely more forgiving of screw-ups too, as you can correct yourself on the fly and it will still get your command right. I started a timer and changed the time mid-sentence without a problem. Siri, set a timer for 5 minutes. No, I'm sorry, 10 minutes.
10 minutes starting now.
So you don't have to get Siri stage fright. You can also ask follow-up questions and Siri will get the context most of the time. Who the New York Giants play next?
The Giants play the Commanders on Sunday at 1 p.m.
What are the odds?
I'm hearing that the Commanders are favored to defeat the Giants by 1.5 points.
What's the over-under?
The over-under for the Giants Commanders game is 43.
But Siri did get tripped up on other follow-up questions, giving general info instead of a relevant answer. Apple Intelligence also delivers a wide range of writing tools. You can have the iPhone 16 Pro proofread your copy for grammar and word choice, or get help rewriting if you want to go for, say, a more professional tone. I think my boss is going to write me about this. You can also have Apple Intelligence summarize long passages of text, as I did with a few notes. I wish you didn't have to select all text first, but I did get a fairly good summary of key points for my shot list for this video. Don't want to look up how-to articles? Siri also leverages large language models and Apple support info to give you step-by-step instructions on how to do lots of stuff on your iPhone, from making screen recordings to scheduling a text. This is a game changer for kids who play IT person for their parents, like me. This next feature is overdue versus the Pixel and Galaxy, but it's nice to see cleanup in photos. You can remove unwanted objects or people in the frame with just a tap. It worked fairly well when I tried to remove a person from my selfie, but you'll get the best results if the background isn't too complicated. You can't talk about Apple Intelligence without strong performance, and that's why the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max both get 8 gigs of RAM and Apple's new A18 Pro chip built on second generation 3nm tech. This blows away the Android competition in CPU performance, but not graphics. I was sucked in by the Infinity Nikki game, which was in beta testing. The open-world puzzler has console-like visuals, complete with realistic-looking rippling water and smooth animations. The new iPhones are nearly 50% faster than the Galaxy S24 Ultra's Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip on single-core and 15% higher on multi-core performance. The latest Tensor G4 Pixel phones aren't in the same league. The new iPhones were also twice as fast as the S24 Ultra in our video editing test using Adobe Premiere Rush, where we time how long it takes to transcode a 4K clip to 1080p. They also shave off a few seconds versus the iPhone 15 Pros. So what about graphics? The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max both pack a 6-core GPU compared to 5 cores for the regular iPhone 16 series, and Apple claims that it's up to 20% faster than the iPhone 15 Pro's A17 chip. On the 3D Mark Solar Bay graphics test, which has support for ray tracing, the iPhone 16 Pro was 22% faster than the iPhone 15 Pro. However, that's still 18% behind the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which also delivered higher frame rates on the same test. There's one other performance test we ran to see if Apple's claims of better sustained performance are legit. There's a new internal design with a graphite-clad aluminum substructure that's supposed to result in 20% better sustained performance. On the Tom's Guide battery test, which involves continuous web surfing over 5G at 150 nits of screen brightness, the iPhone 16 Pro Max lasted for an insane 18 hours and 6 minutes. That's 4 hours longer than the iPhone 15 Pro Max and over an hour longer than the already great Galaxy S24 Ultra. The iPhone 16 Pro endured for 14 hours, which is a big 3-hour jump from the iPhone 15 Pro. It also edges out the Pixel 9 Pro's runtime. And now we come to my biggest disappointment with the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, and that's that they offered the same lame charging speeds. You get just over 50% capacity in 30 minutes from a 30-watt charger. We tried it with a 45-watt charger and saw no difference. The iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 16 Pro Max are indeed iterative upgrades, and maybe it wouldn't feel that way if Apple Intelligence was available today, along with all of the promised features. Instead, it's going to trickle out over time, so I would not be in a rush to upgrade. Having said that, I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the best phone money can buy right now if you want the biggest screen and the longest battery life. It lags in zoom and graphics versus the S24 Ultra, but you get more endurance, better camera quality, and plenty of creative features like photographic styles and audio mix. Meanwhile, the iPhone 16 Pro is the better value of the two. It has the same 5x zoom and the same speed as the Pro Max in a design that's easier to use in one hand, and yet the display is big enough now, in my eyes, at 6.3 inches. So tell us what you think about the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max in the comments. Are you going to upgrade or wait for the possibly slimmer iPhone 17? And be sure to follow us at Tom's Guide across all of our social channels. This is Mark Spoonhour for Tom's Guide, and I'll catch you in the next video.